Shabbat Shalom. Welcome back to Shabbat Night Live. And as I promised, we have a special guest with us tonight. It is a filmmaker, American filmmaker, Warran Marcus, and he is presenting to us tonight his book, Shalom, One Man's Search for Peace. This is a gentleman that started out his career on Madison Avenue in New York City and found his way in the Christian film industry. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Warran Marcus. Warran, good to have you here.
Good to be here, bro.
Well, it has been one wild ride. It has been, raised in a Jewish family in New York City. Tell us a little bit about your journey and about your search for peace and where you've come along these years.
Well, I was brought up, my grandparents were Orthodox. My father's family, his father called himself an atheist. He was an atheist.
Your father's?
Yeah.
So your grandfather and your grandmother, now we have Orthodox, then the next generation is atheist.
Yeah.
Now you come along, so we've got a Jewish atheist Orthodox. Okay, so what kind of mixture is going to happen with this?
So I would go back and forth with my mother to Brooklyn, New York, to my grandparents. He went to Orthodox synagogue. You know, the women sat upstairs, the men downstairs, all Hebrew. I didn't know a word. It was all Greek to me, you know. And then I went to a conservative temple, you know, where I was learning bar mitzvah and all the Hebrew school and all that stuff. And so I was going to that and getting all crazy. And I remember, you know, how God has his hand in our lives. You know, when he really wants you, he'll come at you. Now, there were so-called Christians living around me in my neighborhood, but they never told me about Yeshua. They never told me that Jesus or Messiah. I never knew anything about a Messiah. And but what happened to me as a young kid, I was scared of lightning and thunder. And I came running into my house. I was 5 years old, and my sister Fran, who was an agnostic Jew, she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "It's lightning. It could kill you." And she says, "Don't be afraid. God will protect you." Now that's the first time I ever heard about God. And she's saying, "God, he will protect you." I says, "Who's God?" And he goes, "Well, he lives in a place called heaven, but he's everywhere. And he's around you. You can't see him, but he's with you." And I said, "Is he in my room at night when it's dark?" She said, "Yes." So I started getting more frightened of this thing called God than I did of lightning and thunder. I'm thinking, there's this thing in my room at night, you know. And so I had this dream as a kid, a childhood dream, where I was up in the sky. It was like clouds. It was lightning and thunder. I was frightened. And all of a sudden, this light, and it was like a circle of the clouds and parting, and this light, it was the most beautiful thing you could ever see, rays of light coming towards me and all around me. And I didn't really understand it till I saw 10 Commandments, and it was like that image of God in the Shekinah glory. You know, it was the glory of God. I mean, and I heard this voice inside me and all around me says, "Don't be afraid, I am your friend." And it was such a peace, a shalom of God that I felt inside. I mean, I didn't want to wake up from that dream. When I woke up from that dream, you know, I said, "Mom," I said, "I saw God." She said, "That's nice, Warran." I said, "No, I saw God in my dream." She goes, "That's very nice." So I went to school, kindergarten, and the teacher says, "Take out your crayons, draw a picture." So I tried to draw a picture of what I saw in my dream. I used a yellow crayon. I still have that picture, by the way. And I drew a picture of the Shekinah. I tried to draw a picture of the Shekinah. And this kid next to me, Jewish kid, says, "What's that supposed to be?" I said, "It's a picture." "Picture of what?" "Picture of God." He said, "You can't draw a picture of God." I said, "Why not?" He said, "You can't see God." And I said, "Well, I saw God, and I'm drawing this picture, right?" And then he says, "You can't see God," and he gets into a big argument with me. And I said, "I saw God," and the class starts laughing at me, you know. And and she says, "What's going on there?" And he says, "Teacher, he said he saw God." And I said, "I did see God in my dream." By that time, I'm in tears. The teacher, "And this is a picture of him," and she's looking at me and looking at the picture, and she thinks I'm totally mashugana, you know, crazy. And but that was interesting because here he was trying to tell others about the reality of a God as he came to me, right? And instead of being able to say it by words, I had to draw a picture for others to see. And that's what I believe God's calling before the foundations of the world. He has a calling for us and a purpose, and that was to draw pictures Now I'm doing it on film. Now I'm doing it on video to show forth God's revelation of who he is. And so he uses those things. But flash forward to my mother takes me to see, first of all, 10 Commandments. And I'm going, wow, that's the same thing I saw in my dream, this glory of God, you know, the famous 10 Commandments. And then she takes me to see Ben-Hur. And I hear about this Messiah and Jesus. Who's this, you know? And I said to my mother, I said, who's that Jesus? You know, because I felt that same peace that I felt in my dream. She goes, oh, it's just a story, you know? And I remember going into my synagogue. And I would go in there, and it was a form of God, but it denied the power. It was just an outward form, you know. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like it was supposed to be. And I would go in there, and I would go in the empty sanctuary, and I'd say, God, where are you? You know, I wanted that God that I saw in the 10 Commandments. I wanted to see what Jesus was talking about. You know, I wanted to see Yeshua. What is this thing? I wanted to see a real God. I said, God, I want to know you in a way that, who are you? So it put me on a search. And the next thing that happened is bar mitzvah class, 12 years old, this little Jewish kid again. Now, these are not Gentiles telling me about. This is, you know, God's after you when he uses Jewish people, right? So there's a little Jewish kid next to me, Aaron Zelix, and he's the troublemaker of the class. So he says, Rabbi, he goes, can I ask you a question? And he goes, yes, Aaron, because he knew there was trouble. And, you know, everybody perked up. And he says, Rabbi, can I ask you, is Jesus our Messiah? He goes, what? No, he's not a Messiah. And I didn't even know what a Messiah was, you know? And he says, well, was he a Jew? And he says, of course he was a Jew. And I'm going, wait a minute. Jesus was a real person? And he was a Jew? I mean, if he was real, I thought he'd probably be a Catholic, you know? I mean, you know.
Right.
He was a Jew? And he says, yes, he was a Jew. He was a reformer. Some say he was a teacher. Some say he was even a prophet. But he was not the Messiah. The wolf must lay down with the lamb. There must be perfect peace on the earth, and then Messiah will come. The Catholics teach Jesus. We teach Moses. Now I never want to hear his name mentioned in his class again. So I went on my bicycle to the public library, looked up Jesus Christ, found this book that I cannot find to this day. It was a book written to Jews, and it was saying Jesus isn't his name, it's Yeshua, and his name is HaMashiach. And you know, and it explained the prophecies and explained why Jewish people rejected him, that they didn't realize he had to come as servant first and all of those things. I mean, and at that point I said, Mom, Jesus is our Messiah. And she says, what's a Messiah? See, they don't teach Messiah. And I said, well, that's the one we're waiting for, the deliverer. And she says, you better ask Uncle Morty. He's the guy that goes to synagogue every week. So I asked Uncle Morty. You know what Uncle Morty said? He said, I don't know, what's a Messiah? That's what I was putting up with. You know? So it wasn't until years later that I finally came in my room and just said, I said to the God of Israel, is Yeshua, is he the Messiah? Is he Lord? Is he what these Christians claim him to be? Or is he not? If he is, I want him in my heart. I want him in my life. I want to know him. If he isn't, then don't let me have this desire anymore. But you're going to have to let me know what is truth here. The moment I prayed that prayer, nobody preached to me. Nobody told me anything. I'm smoking marijuana. I look at this thing, why am I doing this? I threw all this marijuana out. I started going through my bookshelf and saw books in here. This doesn't belong here. Because I could feel the presence of God, the holiness of God. I could feel the God of Israel in my apartment, you know. And then I start going through booze, and I'm throwing it down the sink. I'm taking records, you know, and I'm throwing records out. My wife comes home. She's Catholic, right? But she's not. She's an agnostic. She comes in. She goes, what are you doing? I says, Yeshua, Jesus is in the house. I said, I'm getting rid of all this stuff. She goes, don't throw away my records. Anyway, make a long story short, that's where it brought me to the point where I said, there's got to be more, you know? And I saw something happen when I did come to churches and stuff. I realized, what does this have to do with the Jewish Messiah? It was a mystery. Like, what is going on here? Where is the roots that this came from? He's the Jewish Messiah. He's the God. He's the Messiah of Israel. And what does this have to do with it? And I couldn't figure it out until really several years ago, really, where God started coming in. You shared some things with me at NRB. I started looking at some tapes that you were teaching and stuff, and I'm going, wow, you know, there is what's going on. There was a rejection of the Hebrew roots. There was a rejection of this by the church itself. And then it brought in all this paganism, and that's what I was looking at. There was this thing that was disconnected. And when that comes together and you start understanding how all this stuff fits together, it changes your life.
Yeah, so you didn't find him, and it was noticeably absent in the synagogue. You come over into the Christian world, even though, and you know then that Yeshua is the Messiah of Israel.
Right.
And you come over to the Christian world, and it's not here either. There's something that is missing there.
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's just so much more. It's the richness of who it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's this thin. It was this thin. To this day, I find it this thin in the Gentile church.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why we see so many people, they'll come to the reality of the understanding who Yeshua is, but then their lives aren't reflecting, living this life of understanding that who God is, and He's a holy God, and how you could live a life of victory and abundance even. Because when God comes in and you understand that the truth is there, it changes your life, and you start living a life because He wants to give you everything you need to fulfill the destiny and purpose that you have on this earth.
So it's not formulaic churchianity.
No.
You know, it's really the life. When He's living in you, that is the transforming thing. And I think we can both say that we see such a lack of it in the Christian world, of people's lives really being transformed. It's like they've got a religion, and they're happy with the religion. But where is the power of heaven? Where is, if Yeshua is in them, what's going on? Because I don't see it. You know, there's nothing. You know, you'd think He lived with such fire and such passion. I mean, tear Him up right in the face of everyone, and then people are satisfied with just. You know, you wouldn't know unless they, unless they told you. You'd have no idea. Oh, the Messiah's in you? I'd never know.
Well, all the people that lived around me that quote unquote called themselves Christians, I'd ask them questions when I was in my search, and I'd say, hey, you know, what about this? And they didn't know. It was this thin. You know, they couldn't answer questions I was asking them about Him. Who is Jesus? Why do you have this thing under your Christmas tree, this crutch or whatever? He says, it's Christmas. I said, well, but what does it mean? I mean, I wanted to understand the meaning behind all these things, but it's all there. But you have to understand the Tanakh. The Old Testament is the explanation of everything, the foundation of everything that we understand in the New Covenant or renewed covenant is right there in the foundation. If you despise the foundation, you can look at the renewed covenant and say how beautiful it is. This is a beautiful house, but I don't like that foundation. You rip the foundation out, the whole house falls down, and that's what's happening today. Yeah, but right. I'm part of building that house and really strengthening the foundation so that people understand, so the house will stand, and that beautiful house is growing.
Amen. You know, we've been talking the last couple of months about bulldozer faith, about the faith that takes the bulldozer and clears away all the stuff, and let's get back down to the foundation and build on a firm foundation again. Right. Because without that foundation, there will be no unity. We've got thousands of denominations out there. We've got Messianic congregations that look, I mean, some of them just loony as fruitcakes out there. I mean, they're all over the map. Where is the unity? We got to clear away all the stuff, all the man-made stuff, get back to the foundation, follow the Messiah, and that's where our unity is.
Exactly. And I'm seeing that with different people from different denominations, different things. They're coming, like I have a little meeting, they come to it, and you know what they're seeing? Is the foundation stone. They're seeing all of that stuff. That's the uniting power of it. And that and understanding the root. The power comes when you build on that right foundation.
Well, here it is in your book to take us through a journey of a man who was born a Jew, lived as a Jew, came to the Messiah as a young man, went to Madison Avenue, and then ended up telling the stories, exhibiting to people through a way that they can understand. You're still drawing the pictures, you're doing it on film, you're doing it on video, and taking people on this journey of faith to lead them to the Messiah. Warran, thank you for being with us, and make sure that you get his book, Shalom, One Man's Journey or Search for Peace. One Man's Search for Peace. Warran, thanks for being with us.
No plus.
We'll see you when the smoke clears.